Hi everyone, my name is Richard Santoro and I welcome you to Third and Zen, the YouTube channel where now, on occasion, every now and then, I share a spiritual message to nourish ourselves, heart, mind, body, and soul. So first, welcome, hope you're doing well. Second, challenge accepted. And third, what I want to talk about today, recently in the last week or two, in our popular culture, we had a few unexpected, one on top of the other, celebrity passings. First it was Malcolm Jamal Warner, Theo Huxtable from The Cosby Show, and then it was Hulk Hogan, and then it was Ozzy Osborne, and then a little bit after that, this might not have been on everybody's radar, but Chicago Cubs baseball legend Ryne Sandberg unexpectedly passed. And I know these were all felt by a lot of people. Made the rounds of social media and text messages and all of that, because they were unexpected. They came one on top of the other, and in some way, shape, or form, each one of them had a little piece of our lives in joy, entertainment, memory, pop culture, as I mentioned. And more importantly, they kind of touch us because they are Memento Mori, reminders of death. Memento Mori, this concept that we find in art, that was recently in the zombie movie 28 Years Later, these reminders of death. So that's what I want to talk about. I want to center this topic, because it's not an easy topic to talk about. I'm going to center it on Ozzy Osbourne, and I'm going to center it on Memento Mori. And I am of the ideology that most messages and sermons can fall into one or more of these three boxes of challenge, comfort, and education. Today it's going to be comfort. So let's talk a little bit about Ozzy Osbourne, a little bit about Memento Mori and reminders of death, and try to find some comfort in all of that. So Ozzy Osbourne, I'm an Ozzy Osbourne fan. I grew up on Ozzy Osbourne, loved him in high school. He's not on my, pantheon, but Ozzy Osbourne was fun. Music is great. Black Sabbath, Ozzy, Randy Rhoads tribute albums, I think probably my favorite live album. I used to listen to it constantly in high school. And then in his later years, Ozzy Osbourne was fun. He was cheeky. He was aging into the, decrepit, in a fun way, old man, and with his family, and the reality show that they had that was such a hit. And he had so many facets of himself, like a jewel, whether it was the dark and Prince of Darkness, Black Sabbath, or Ozzy persona, or, Shout at the Moon, Bark at the Moon, and Crazy Train, and Paranoid, or again, the family man, the doddering, fun old man who you could tell knew that he was sort of just always living on borrowed time because of the hard rock star life that he lived, but he was fun and he was enjoyable. So his passing, and the passings of, wrestling icon Hulk Hogan, and the, beloved son from The Cosby Show, and a baseball player, things like this can touch us, can hit us, because again, they are these memento mori, this reminder of death. Memento mori is this unique concept, this reminder of death that we find particularly in medieval and Renaissance art, where we look at art and we see things like skulls, and it's a response to death, particularly in a time, during the plagues, where humanity was having this relationship with death, and this was all around them. And it's also a time where Christians, the cross, the crucifix, they become much more at the peak and at the center of the Christian symbolism, Christian faith, Christian ideology, where death, memento mori, reminder of death, was very, very present, and then became symbolically very present. So how do we deal with that? How do we find words of comfort to deal with death? Whether it's death very, very, very present in our lives, personally, or death where it's these little pieces of our life's mosaic in pop culture and joy and entertainment and memory. How do we find comfort in it? It's not easy, because number one, we all have our own unique relationship with death. We are all unique people living unique experiences, journeying through our own existence, and our relationship with death is different. Each one of us. Trauma, pain, suffering, loss, it brings up something different in each of us. We all have this different, unique relationship. So how do we speak words of comfort to an existence of something so profound, so defining, that it's different for everybody. It's hard to find words of comfort, pithy, eulogizing words of comfort that can lean maybe into too much of toxic positivity, and we don't want that. But I think number one is just by simply acknowledging that memento mori, reminders of death, death in and of itself, relationships with death, are different from all of us. And I think if we acknowledge that for ourselves, and if we acknowledge that for others, it does help maybe bring a little bit of peace, or at least maybe more so a little bit of understanding, to acknowledge and understand that our relationship with death is unique. It's ours. And it's okay, and this is number two, it's okay to not be okay when we see Hulk Hogan passing or Ozzy Osborne passing, and it brings something out in us. Again, maybe it's a personal and intimate pain or trauma or grief or loss that where that comes back to the surface, where that comes back for us, where that rises back up for us. Or if it's looking at these figures that we didn't know personally, but hold a space within us, and it brings out within us that memento mori, that reminder of death that says to us, things change. Things don't remain the same. Things aren't permanent. And we feel maybe like we lost a little bit of ourselves, because a little bit of our lives, our memory, our joy, whether it was WrestleMania or Paranoid or the Chicago Cubs or anything, where it's life is moving on. We're moving farther away from those memories, from that time, from that place that isn't the same anymore. So I think that's number two, is just sitting with that, with love for ourselves, compassion, understanding, and knowing that that's not easy. That when we have even these celebrity passings, that these memento mori, that it's a reminder of death, and that reminder can be hard to sit with, can it? So number one, again, is to acknowledge that we all have our own unique relationship with death, and it's not easy. And number two, to acknowledge that it's not easy, and that it's okay to not be okay with these memento mori, these reminders of death. And then the last thing I'm going to say is, again, to bring it back to Ozzy Osbourne. You know, just real quick before that, on Netflix, there is a limited series, The Sandman, based on the very famous graphic novel. And in The Sandman, it's these anthropomorphic living personifications of these big existential concepts. So the lead character, Sandman, dream, it's the concept of the Sandman, dream. And there's his siblings, despair and destruction and delirium and destiny and desire. And the last one that's present on the show is death, the personification of death, Sandman's sibling Death, who in the show is represented as the best character, kind and wise and caring and empathetic and loving, and the best big sister to Sandman, Dream, and just this beautiful spirit who's so friendly and warm and loving. And that's the personification of death in this show. And this character, Death, has the idea that she's going to meet everybody at the end of their lives. And when she does, she's welcoming, and she's warm, and she's kind, and she knows that she's escorting them from one phase of existence to their next phase. And she wants it to be friendly and soft and sympathetic. And that's sort of where I'm landing on this comfort, because, you know, we can have a relationship with death that is personified like Ozzy Osbourne, who in some ways was crazy and scary and bark at the moon and biting the head off bats and dark and twisted, and yet at the same time also warm and fuzzy and kind and endearing and charming. So death is a lot of things to us. Death can be warm and fuzzy and welcoming. Death can be scary. Death can be memento mori, a reminder of impermanence, of loss, of pain, of things slipping away. So I guess I'm going to land on this aspect of comfort. However, the passing of celebrities, of Ozzy Osbourne, however memento mori whatever reminders of death come across you in your path, in your journey, however they feel for you, however they land for you, I hope that you take the time to treat yourself with love, with compassion, with warmth, with understanding, and knowing that it's not easy, and that it's okay for it not to be okay, and it's okay for it not to be easy, and it's okay for us to have our own unique relationship with Memento Mori, with reminders of death, with death in and of itself. So I hope you go listen to maybe some Ozzy Osborne. Maybe you're moved to listen to Goodbye to Romance, and maybe that brings you some peace, some comfort, and brings those things that maybe you miss and or feel are slipping away back into your soul, because they do still exist, because they will always, always be a part of you. Thanks be to God. Amen. Okay, my friends, I love you all. I thank you all for being here and checking out today's video. I do wish you nothing but peace, comfort, love, and fellowship with God as you go forward on your journey. Have a great day. Have a great rest of your summer. Peace. Love you all. Ciao, ciao.